sunflower. So already the cotton one, we've seen one uptick that has been done, and hopefully we'll see more upticks around that.
Maybe I will also report to you that by Friday, and Lee, you should ensure, by Friday, we are signing off the agreement for a private sector person to take over Rivertex. So that again, we can be able to have an off-taker, bringing the private sector into the equation so that we can have an off-taker that also provides seeds and planting material to farmers and provide a predictable off-taker of cotton products that feeds into the whole chain of textile industry, because Rivertex has huge capacity of textile, production of textile. So I think you are well seized, and Treasury and your ministry will facilitate. By this Friday, we finish that program.
Much obliged.
Thank you very much. And even part of that, the county aggregation and industrial parks, we've had a meeting, again with Kenya Development Corporation and MITI, and we'll be having a conference so that we showcase which ones should be taken up, so that we can fast track that process and we can see many industries take that. So that again is very good progress. On the special economic zones, I know, Your Excellency, we had discussed earlier on how really to ensure that we are not having many small ones, because then we will not fill them, and maybe work with a maximum of 4 to 5 in the country, and then maybe have industrial parks. We also appreciate the merger that was approved by Cabinet, again, as part of this conversation between SEZ and EPZ, which is, again, a reform process that is ongoing. I think part of this also in progress is the fast tracking of the food and feed safety condition bill to help facilitate shipments, so that those who are investing in the special economic zones, we can work on the export side of things. So there's progress also on that.
Maybe on the county aggregation and industrial parks, and together with the special economic zones, I want to persuade industry and the private sector to tap into the opportunities that come with the expanded space in the special economic zones and the county aggregation and industrial parks. Lee here will confirm to you that I think by September, 13 county aggregation and industrial parks will be ready out of the 45. We are expecting industry to work with us in operationalizing these county aggregation industrial parks, so that you can work with us together with other actors in defining what kind of common user facilities do we need in these spaces, what kind of primary value addition is required, and therefore what kind of equipment is required. Once we have acquired the facilities, the value addition capabilities, these should not be operationalized by government. It should be done by the private sector, either through cooperatives or SACCOs or other, or even individual private sector players who can lease these facilities and get our value addition program underway. These facilities, much as we are developing in conjunction with counties, it is for the private sector. We are making it possible for the private sector. Instead of you investing in brick and mortar, we are investing in brick and mortar for you. We will also put in, hopefully, the common user facilities. It is now you who should operationalize, do the value addition program, and then we will work with you on finding the routes to market. Because already we are putting up 400 markets across Kenya that have cold room facilities, that have and many of them have begun to be finalized now. So there is an opportunity that we have built, the market infrastructure we have built, but the software and the know-how and the operationalization will be done by the private sector. And I hope, Caro, you're sensitizing your members to take advantage of these facilities and operationalize them as we encourage primary value addition agro-processing capabilities across the country. And so it is with the special economic zones, the 6 special economic zones that we have put money in Busia, in Eldoret, in Nakuru, in Sagana, in Thika, all the way to Mombasa. Just for record, in October, I will be going to the special economic zone in Vipingo. We have agreed with Afri-Exim Bank that we begin the journey in Dongokundu before the end of this year to put the horizontal infrastructure, and also in early next year in Naivasha. They have provided the resources, we have provided the land, we have signed the agreements, and we want, as we roll out the horizontal infrastructure, the private sector must organize themselves to take advantage of these facilities so that, again, we can drive the whole manufacturing, processing, value addition space into the future. These are interventions that government can only do a fraction, but the real people to operationalize these spaces is the private sector. And if there is anything that we can do to add into that space, including what KDIC will be doing, we will be happy to do it.
Thank you very much. I'll move to the ICT sector on progress in terms of the issues that were discussed. One of the issues was the KRA to really sensitize SMEs on the e-teams through their member associations. This is work that is ongoing and sensitization is happening, so that is helping, and you're not hearing a lot of noise now on the e-teams because there's sensitization. Then there was the other issue of a policy around implementation of the sectors, especially the startups, being that don't survive because of just the changes on funding and all that, and being able to list even on NSC. And this, we really want to thank the Ministry of Trade and the Ministry of SMEs because of the startup bill, and that will address that challenge so that funding issues and being able to grow and list on NSC. So again, that is done. So there's no more work to be done there. I think it's just the implementation of that. And then on the data protection laws and regulation harmonization across the EAC, that's in progress. The Secretariat has been established and Kenya is represented. So we are monitoring that as we go along. Then on the energy costs, especially the lack of ICT-specific tariff, recognition of the Communication Authority as the only license issuing authority, discussions are ongoing. So we are still having discussions on what that will look like. So it's not complete, but at least there's work going on. On the review of the tariff of the lift on the power purchasing agreement, especially on energy, that was uplifted and then reinstated. So we are going again into the discussions to see how do we deal with that issue, because we've gone a bit back and forth on it, but at least the discussions are going on. Of the power purchasing agreement, moratorium on energy. So it was first lifted, and then again it was reinstated. I think it was Parliament, yes. Yeah, so sometimes there are, and I know you're challenging, Your Excellency, because there are things we'll agree here and then they'll change in Parliament. So we have to keep going back and forth a little bit. And maybe in the roundtable in December is also to have representatives of Parliament on some of these key issues, and it's so that we can have an agreement together.
But on that particular matter, despite, I think Parliament has overstepped its mandate. I mean, Parliament should not be deciding matters to do with executive functions. We cannot, we are operating at the edge. I think last month we had the highest peak consumption in Kenya's history, a new high, because of all the things you people are doing in industry and others. And we certainly need another 5,000 megawatts into our grid, sooner than later. 3,000 where we are, 3,500 where we are now is very constricted. And I have given instructions to the Ministry of Energy, and I've given them policy direction. In spite of what Parliament has done, we have opened up that space for power purchase agreements, and we are already negotiating with many of the players in that section. We are also looking at other power alternatives, including nuclear energy and all the other power sources. So that conversation is going on. My direction to the Ministry of Energy is very clear, because there are industries that cannot come and set up in Kenya merely because they look at our grid. They possibly could need 1,000 megawatts and they can't find it. So they go and look for other different destinations. So we are reorganizing that space, and just give me a bit of time, and I think we will have a clearer, because by God's grace, before 2030, we should have doubled. And 2030 is not very far. Maybe, yeah, we should have doubled the grid that we have. So, and that is and we should try and do it with renewable energy as much as possible. So I think that is that. But just to give you comfort, in spite of the parliamentary things, we are clear on how that is going.
Thank you very much. That's very helpful. We're also meeting them for a roundtable in October, so we'll also keep sensitizing them on the need to really not go back and forth on some of these agreements. On the issue of the high ICT power users unable to directly contract power offtake from IPPs, this, though we discussed and didn't have a resolution, what has been done, which we are very grateful about, is the Energy Electricity Market Bulk Supply and Open Access Regulations 2024 that has now legally allowed ICT companies and other high energy users to contract directly with IPPs through the power wheeling arrangements, and that's very commendable, and we're very grateful to the government on that. On counties overstepping their roles in overseeing ICT build and lack of efficiency and at times repetitive taxes for one service. So as KEPSA, we're engaging them in the formulation of the regulations operationalization, the County Licensing and Uniform Procedures Act. So hopefully once that's done, this will stop being an issue. And then the recognition of infrastructure sharing best practices that allow other utilities to share and facilitate the quick deployment of ICTs. We didn't really reach a resolution here, and so we really need to do that. And what we think is establish a policy to promote infrastructure sharing for ICT infrastructure. So I think that's what our recommendation would be, because we didn't really get to this, to resolve this issue in the last ICT. The recognition of infrastructure sharing best practices allows utilities that share and facilitate the deployment of ICT. So that each person, and I don't know who is here from ICT, you find that they dig up to put one thing, then someone else comes and digs up to put another thing, instead of all sharing the related facilities on one. So just a policy on that. It will also make our roads and our environment a bit more tidy. So that's been an issue. So everyone comes in and has to pay a different license and all that. Then on the ICT infrastructure such as fiber and towers are not classified as critical infrastructure. So what is done, there was a review of the building code under the Ministry of Lands and Housing, and held the building code as reviewed and gazetted. So that's done. So that's not an issue. But we're also discussing the critical infrastructure bill ongoing in the National Assembly Department of Committee of ICT, so that apart from the policy in the ministry, we have it as an act of parliament. And then the review.
I think we should just report it as progress.
Just a progress.
We've done,
yes.
we have done what we committed.
Yes.
In short.
Yes. Yes.
And we have done what we committed on two things, which you have said.
Yeah.
Number one, you have said that on the matter of people who want to directly, either generate their own energy and use it for their facilities, or work with those who generate the IPPs, the independent power producers, and directly have a relationship with them. Initially, the law did not recognize and did not allow. So what we did, we changed the regulation, and the regulations have the power of the law. So the regulations now gives independent power producers to engage directly with consumers who want to do that. So what I committed to you, we have delivered.
You have done it, yes. That's right? What I said, that's done.
So that one is done.
Yes.
We also, on this subject of recognizing the towers and all this, we have also changed the law to recognize it.
You've done the policy, it's
Yes.
done, so we're just waiting now for Parliament, who are engaging to make it an act.
To make it an act.
Yes.
So the policy has
Done.
been done.
Yes.
So that we have achieved.
Yes.
And finally, on this sharing of critical infrastructure,
The shared infrastructure of
what
ICT.
we did, and maybe we can upgrade it, we decided ourselves that we are not going to be digging trenches all over the place. We decided to use the infrastructure that is available in Kenya Power. As you notice, we have lifted all our ICT infrastructure from ground to the Kenya Power poles. It's a neater. It has a much more robust infrastructure. You don't have to dig nowhere, and yet there is power everywhere. And as we deliver power, we are delivering ICT infrastructure.
Yes.
We will be happy, and I will, maybe somebody will pick up from here, Eden, so that we can get the ICT ministry to see whether the industry also wants to piggyback on what we are doing with Kenya Power. And that should be fine with us. We should be able to share that infrastructure, the way we wanted to share the digging.
Yes, thank you very much. That will be very, very helpful. The other one that we had agreed on ICT, as I move on to financial sector, there are many others, they are all done, but we'll pass into everyone to see, so that I don't have to read all the ones that are done, but many are done on ICT. And I think the only one that is in progress is on VAT refunds. I think that's across the board. So I think we'll just agree as we agreed on VAT refunds. Yes. Yes, thank you very much. On the partnerships between the tech institutions and the private sector, again, that's done, and there's a bill in process that is going to be tabled next week to just allow that partnership to happen. So let me move to finance sector, just in the interest of time, but because a lot of the other things in ICT are done or are progressing well, so there's nothing really to look at. On the financial sector, the national government to spend on salaries to be reduced to 30%. I think that's in progress. You've really committed on how the public service will work, and I think you gave a 3-year commitment on that, so that's work in progress, and I think that really is appreciated. Again, on the other thing on the financial sector was enhancing and prioritizing commercial land transactions on APISASA at land registries. So because what the finance sector was saying, they are not able to finalize transactions with clients because of that backlog. So there's work in progress on the platform, and so that has really reduced the pressure. And I think once that's complete, then we'll be able to see better movement on that. The other one I would maybe touch on the financial sector was the issue to firm up the fiscal policy and regulatory intervention to support green finance and green bonds. One of the things that was done last year, after this, we held a consultative meeting with KEPRO to discuss the opportunities in green finance and explore ways. And we have also undertaken a partnership with Partnership for 4G, which is a global partnership which has provided valuable support in helping members to do that. And I think we saw one of our members, Akon Holdings, successfully listing in the Nairobi Stock Exchange. So again, that's a success that we are very, very grateful about. On the policy stability and clarity on environment and climate-related ease of cost of doing business to spur green financing, what's in progress is that there's engaging the relevant ministries and that newly gazetted environment regulations provide policy stability and clarity to support green financing, and the extended producer responsibility regulations, water quality regulations. So all those now are in place, the regulations. So now it's just engaging the different ministries and working with the private sector. So again, that's done from that time. I will not go again into the details of the other financial ones because a lot of them are in good progress and most of them are done. I think I'll just touch now on agriculture.
I think just to mention to you, Carol, we did gazette all the regulations about extended producer responsibility.
Yes.
Because it was necessary for us to stabilize that space and to also position Kenya appropriately to benefit from green finance. I think the regulations have now come into force.
Yes.
And we are now working with industry to make sure that importers are sensitive to where their products eventually end. And that end must have a mechanism for making sure that they don't destroy the environment. So I think that has been, we agreed here that we should have a proper legal environment that positions Kenya appropriately. That has been done.
Yes.
We passed the regulations, I think, 3-4 months ago. Now the NEMA is in charge, is the implementing agency, and we can credibly, position Kenya in that space as a climate-sensitive destination. What I think I would ask industry is for all of us to respect and to work with the regulations as they have been passed. We should avoid the short-circuiting, again, in that space, so that we can position the country appropriately and we can benefit from green finance, which is a big pool of resources that we can make available for not just the public, but also for the private sector to benefit from funding. So I'm happy that there was agreement. There was public participation and there was agreement in that space. Yeah. And why I'm saying this is just to get the private sector to also begin to tap into green financing, because you can now credibly assert that Kenya is properly aligned on matters to do with green financing. And therefore, even the private sector should be able to benefit from such resources.
Thank you very much. Yes, and that's why we're very grateful that all the regulations now are done. On agriculture, I'll touch a few. One of the issues that we discussed that time was the reciprocal arrangements with China, Canada, Turkey, and India, Iran for Kenya to access those markets. There were issues like tea and avocado, and we have been informed that the bilateral discussions are ongoing and focusing on enhancing trade relations and exploring these new market opportunities for Kenyan tea especially. And I know for Turkey and India, it was also the exportation of avocado and also the pricing issue. So the discussions, bilateral discussions are there, and I know, Your Excellency, you committed to talk to some of these key leaders in those countries.
Lee and myself have a progress report.
Thank you.
We have concluded the high-level conversation with China. They have agreed to a reciprocal arrangement between Kenya and China. They have agreed to remove all the tariffs on our tea, on our coffee, on our avocado, and all other agricultural exports. That, I think, is a major breakthrough for us. We are now finalizing the bilateral instruments, and Lee can give us a progress report on that, so that in the next couple of months, we should be able to take advantage of that huge market. It's partly why I have a bit of a problem with some of our friends, but it is what I must do for Kenya. You know, it's in the best interest of Kenya that we get into this market. Some of our friends are complaining that we are doing too much trade with China. Honestly, I mean, you know, when I sat with President Xi, I had a very candid conversation, and I told him that Kenya is importing 600 billion of products from China. Yet we are only exporting maybe 300 or 5%, according to Lee. You know, that trade imbalance is serious. And that is the reason why they have opened up their market for our agricultural products. And that is good for Kenya, you know, and that's the right thing to do as somebody who was sent by the private sector to go and negotiate those markets. I thought you gave me instructions to go and negotiate for this one.
We did. We did. And you did a good job at that. So
yeah.
Very great.
So we are progressing conversations with India. We haven't quite had a breakthrough with India. We haven't quite, we are very good with where we are with Turkey and Canada. And so these are the markets. Can you tell us, Lee, can you tell this audience the progress we've made with access to the Chinese market?
Thank you, Excellency. I think the first thing to note is that China is a 1.4 billion market. Some of their smallest counties, what they call provinces, are probably 140 million people. So if you are to plug even into 1% of our tea and coffee into that market, will completely change the lives of Kenyans. And therefore, as a result of that, the head of state, President William Ruto, made a state visit, and we made it very clear. We are coming for the interests of Kenya. And following that visit, we've had 2 meetings here in Kenya, and we are now finishing the mechanics of how it will operate. Just for you to appreciate how serious the matter was, because Kenya is a middle-level income country, some of our exporters to China have to pay 10%, while our neighboring countries pay 0 because they are low-level. So we have importers who take their products to Rwanda and later export it to China as Rwandan product because of that. Now with the removal of that, they can export directly to China. So that's a landmark. And areas like Kajiado and like Laikipia are particularly very good for some of the commodities that we are taking there. So, Your Excellency, I want to confirm that we have very good conversations with China, and our conversations around any other country that is trading with us will be based on what's best for Kenya. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That's very exciting news, and that's done. And I think as we look at new markets, we'll continue to ask you to be the brand ambassador for Kenya on those markets. I mentioned 3 others on agriculture, and I think there are many that are in progress, and I think under the MSF, the Ministerial Stakeholder of Agriculture, will try and progress as all the others so that we can report as done in December. But let me just mention one that is done, that was done under the Finance Act 2025, was reinstating the farm works allowance back to 100% from its current rate of 50%. So that was done under the Finance Act 2025, and so we are grateful about that. The other one was prohibit counties from collection of cess on export commodities, stroke HCD to share cess with counties. That's progress. We have given our proposals, as we discussed in the PRT, so we hopefully, the counties, and again, I think in the December meeting to be useful to also have the COG present so that we can finalize that. Yes, thank you very much. I think the last one I mentioned in agriculture is we had asked for a grant to be made for the least millers, especially to get commercial milling licenses. And we have discussions right now regarding the incentives the millers are looking for enhancing value addition, and especially on the coffee processing as we move to the other sectors. So, because most millers were saying that at this point we had talked about coffee. Yeah, so the millers wanted commercial milling licenses. So the discussions are ongoing with the millers in coffee and the ministry to make sure to see what is needed for them to get the commercial licenses they're asking for. So we'll be able to report that. So a lot of the things that are in progress in agriculture, I think we'll report in December. So what we'll take advantage of is the Ministerial Stakeholder Forum with the Ministry of Agriculture and see how we can progress many of these things. So that's the work, Your Excellency. You gave John Mwendo and I from Ken Invest to follow up on progress of all the different areas we discussed the last 4 meetings. And as you can see, there's nothing that is not progressing or not done, which is very commendable to government and also working with the private sector where private sector needed to come in. So thank you very much on the progress report. So if you'll allow me, I'll move to trade, but maybe you wanted to say something.
Ask Mwenda to speak to some of the progress that we have made. Do you have any specific areas where you want to highlight on in line with what Caro has said?
Thank you, Your Excellency. We don't have anything much because we funnel all the issues that private sector come through with KEPSA. I think the direction you have given that the ministerial stakeholder forums hasten the conversations with the ministry, we possibly will come with better outcomes in December. That's all, Your Excellency.
Thank you, Excellency.
Have you taken note of all the areas that I mentioned here?
Yes, I was taking notes, Your Excellency.
So that we can have a report in December.
Yes, sir.
And we begin working on them as of immediate.
Yes, Your Excellency.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Excellency. That is on the progress report. As I said, I think 70% is done and what is in progress. And the few that didn't have progress, you've given direction, so we'll be able to give progress. In the interest of time, we were to look at trade, but we'll look at it very briefly because some of the things that needed to be looked at are in the progress report. So I will start with the chair of KEPSA, who will give us a view as we look at the world where the trade is moving, the new trade order from an international and regional level, what's really happening and what should we look at so that we prepare ourselves. And so I'll ask just Betty to come and do that, and then we'll have only very quick 9 issues on the local trade, and then we'll call it a day after you give resolutions on that.
Thank you, Your Excellency. All protocols observed. I think first and foremost, I want to echo what you said earlier on in your speech. The Kenyan microeconomic indicators are all very, very positive. Yes, the exchange rate is stable. Forex reserves are 11 billion. Kenya is the 6th largest economy in Africa. Interest rates are down. FDI inflows are higher than ever before. Inflation is controlled. Bravo. You've done really well, and yes, as a private sector, we recognize what you've done. And one stat that you did not read out is that last year our exports went up by $1 billion. $1 billion with 200,000 new jobs was not mentioned. So unfortunately, Your Excellency, we beat ourselves too much, and we don't talk about the good things that Kenya is doing and the good things that the administration is doing. We talk about the bad news. And even if you look at our media today, front page news, it's actually stale news. It's not new news. You know, it's really not news for the day, and it talks about all sorts of things. And I think the private sector, where our media council is our members, they need to start looking at the information that comes out on front page. Is it really valid in August the 6th? And that was a news of 4th of May. 2 months have gone by, and that was a reaction to a trip that you made, which we just discussed a few minutes ago. So really, it also is an issue that we need to sensitize ourselves and come up with the right news. So looking at the macroeconomic dynamics, everything is perfect in Kenya right now as we speak as a private sector. But I think one big disconnect and the only negativity is that macroeconomic indicators are not translating to the microeconomic indicators. And I think that's the next phase. How do we translate that goodness from the macro picture to the micro picture? What do we do different? Because we have a bulging youth, we have a youth problem, we have an unemployment problem. And that unemployment problem is creating unrest, is creating social peace disruptions, and so on and so forth. So we need to look at all that, because I think that's really the only agenda that we should be talking about, the jobs, jobs, and jobs. Because if we can address the jobs agenda, we'll address the bulging youth agenda, and I think that can bring us a lot of social peace. So if you move forward from Kenya, and let's look at the region, and let's look at East African community, we are 310 million people, $330 billion economy, we are 8 countries. We are continuing to see, after 25 years of being in the East African community, we are seeing a discontent within the member states. We saw what happened to Tanzania last week and what they talked about, what business can be done, and yet it's totally against the EAC protocol, where goods and services and people movement is free. And as the chair of the East African community, which you are this year, I think you probably need to address that maybe in the forthcoming East African Business Council Trade and Investment Forum in October, that we can't have 2 sets of rules. You can't have a rule book for Kenya and a rule book for Tanzania and for Uganda. And I was really shocked yesterday when I looked at the latest tariff book stay of application that came out of Arusha. Uganda has 132 pages, common external tariff distortion out of 520-page book. Tanzania had 79 pages. Kenya had 32 pages. So Kenya is largely playing by the books. Nobody's a saint. But we are only reacting to people who are trying to distort trade in the region. And I think that's something you need to pick it up in your chairmanship of the EAC, that we need to really look at it differently, and we need to start looking at a broader picture. The TFTA, huge opportunity. COMESA, EAC, SADC, 660 million people, and of course the Continental Free Trade Agreement, which is $1.5 billion and $3.5 trillion economy. So we see opportunities in the continent, we see opportunities in the region, but yes, the global dynamics have changed forever. In the last 6 months, we've seen the geopolitics take the order of the day. The world trade order has changed. And with that new order, I think protectionism is on the rise. Multilateral rules-based trading system is being questioned. A lot of bilateralism is kicking in. A lot about transactional trade agreements is what is kicking in. So there's a new trade norm that we need to be worried about. And yes, in the next 55 days from today, we will lose the AGOA legislation. The AGOA legislation will expire on the 30th of September 2025. What is the impact of that on Kenya? That's one of the largest exports for us to the U.S. Apparel alone is $600 million. 66,000 people are in that job space. The good news is that I have just recently visited the Athi River zone, and I've never seen a bigger building site in my life. Everywhere there's a new factory coming up. But they're all coming up with the premise that AGOA will get extended, because AGOA is zero rated, and plus the tariff that has been put on us, the US is 10% tariff, so it's 0 plus 10. But if AGOA expires, it will be MFN plus 10. And if you look at Vietnam, they're on MFN plus 20, Indonesia MFN plus 19, Bangladesh at 20. So our competing countries is where we need to be worried about. I don't think it's the US tariff much more. More worry should be lying on what is going to happen to us. Our competitive and comparative advantage right now is brilliant, but it might diminish very quickly, because 9% advantage over Vietnam is not good enough. We as Kenya have done really well. I mean, Aiden did it, cost, ease of doing business. We were at 134. In 3-4 years, we came down to 56. Brilliant. I think we need to work on the cost of doing business so that even if a differential duty is reduced to 10%, we still are competitive. And I think the extra cost of doing business in Kenya is about 15%. So we need to start looking at all that and see how can we work on that one agenda, competitiveness. As KEPSA, we have looked at the drivers of competitiveness, and I think by and large 60% is okay, which is a bill of materials we are all buying at global prices. But what is not okay is the other 4 drivers of competitiveness, which I know we're working on, which is finance, utilities, we talked about it today, logistics, and of course our labor laws need a total overhaul, which is also part of our discussion we need to have, that how do we move away to unit cost of production as opposed to minimum wage. So a lot of good things happening, a lot of work in progress, but the global dynamics are changing very rapidly, and I think I'm happy that we are looking at alternative markets because we need to survive as a country, and we get punished just because we are a developing country as opposed to least developed countries in the region. So I just want to pause there. We have very limited time, but I just wanted to highlight that there is a situation that is unfolding in front of us, which I'm sure you can pick it up bilaterally in the next few weeks and when you're in New York at the UN General Assembly, because 176 executive orders have been signed in the US. I think one more is not a problem for President Trump. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Jazz. So, Your Excellency, just to wrap up on the trade sector, there's the ones I've given on progress, but let me ask, and they'll take a minute each just to say, we'll take a commercial break. You can stand and relax a bit.